Coming up on today's Philadelphia 76ers now, we have some exciting news about B-Ball Paul and his role going into this year after he signed that contract extension just a couple of weeks ago. Tracy McGrady ripping James Harden and his trade request. And speaking of Harden, he talked about some NBA trade rumors and players demanding trades. We'll get to that as well. Before we get started with taking a look at all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel here for year-round coverage of the Sixers. Been a little bit of a lull over the last several days. I also cover the NFL here at Chat Sports, especially the Philadelphia Eagles. For you Eagles fans out there, and with training camp underway, been real busy on that front, but here I am, and we're talking Sixers once again. The last 7 days, we've picked up 57 new subscribers. For this video alone, I'm challenging all of Philadelphia and all Sixers fans out there. Can we beat that number with this show alone? Hit that sub button. I promise our coverage won't disappoint you. So let's start here with B-Ball Paul. Paul Reed had a conversation with Nick Nurse. In fact, a couple of conversations with Nick Nurse. And Nurse told him that he wants to use B-Ball Paul in a Pascal Siakam-type role. I find this to be pretty exciting. Here's what B-Ball Paul had to say about talking with the new Sixers head coach. I've talked to him plenty of times, and it's always been kind of the same kind of idea. He talked about molding me into a Pascal Siakam-type player, somebody who can kind of do it all, shoot the ball, drive, pass. But right now, it's all about focusing on my shot mechanics. That's the start. That's where it starts at. Now, you look at Pascal Siakam's numbers, and to start his career, he was looked at as a developmental project. He has developed into a very, very solid player. His best year for sure, the year after the Raptors won that NBA championship when Nick Nurse was the head coach, and it did come under Nurse. Nearly 23 points per game, 7 rebounds, 45% from the field, almost 36% from three-point range. That came in 2019-2020, and then from that point on, scoring production hasn't been a problem. Rebounding hasn't been a problem. He's still a really good defender. The overall field goal percentage is solid, but the three-point numbers have slipped a little bit. You look at Paul Reed's first 3 years of his career, and yeah, he didn't get off to the same start as Pascal Siakam. But we have talked about Reed's G League numbers in which he took more than 4 3-pointers per game and hit on those at a more than 40% clip. So when you talk about Paul Reed changing his shot mechanics, altering his shot, and shooting the three, which is what Siakam has grown into. He wasn't originally a three-point shooter. Who better to help Reed become that guy than Nick Nurse, who helped Pascal Siakam become that guy? Because both of these players, Paul Reed has a similar body type to Pascal Siakam. Him becoming a Siakam type of player in which he's averaging more than 20 points per game, of course, is a little bit of a stretch. But he's long, he's athletic, and he can do some of the same things as Pascal Siakam, like handle the basketball, rebound, play a high level of defense, and if he ends up taking threes at the three-point level, he can at least stretch the floor a little bit and play the four alongside Joel Embiid. You also look at some of the projects under Nick Nurse and the players that he's helped develop. Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Precious Achiuwa, Chris Boucher. Who's to say that Nurse can't develop Paul Reed into a much better player than what Doc Rivers had the level of play displaying for Paul Reed? Who's to say that Nick Nurse can't tap into the potential for Paul Reed? I'm very excited about this development, and I'm excited about Nick Nurse here because he has done a good job of helping players out and maximizing their potential. This is just a list of only 6 players here. So do you want B-Ball Paul to start for Philadelphia this year? Some of you have talked about that, and if the Sixers do trade away P.J. Tucker, they could end up starting Paul Reed out the mud. S for start or R for reserve. Next up, let's talk about James Harden now. We never really know what James Harden is thinking as Sixers fans here, right? Neither does Tracy McGrady, who did an interview recently, and he can't come to the idea or the decision or the thought process of where James Harden is coming from when he's requested a trade from Philadelphia because of the situation that Philadelphia offers the Beard at this point of his career. Here's what T-Mac had to say about Harden. I don't understand for the life of me what James Harden is doing. Why are you trying to get out? That makes zero sense to me. Not only that, but I look at all the teammates he's played with. James has probably played with more Hall of Famers than anybody in the league, and he doesn't have a ring to show for it. I don't know what he's looking for, and maybe there's some internal bullshit that is going on that we don't know about, because it doesn't make any sense to me to leave the MVP in the Eastern Conference where you have a shot to at least play for a championship. It's got to be something deeper than what you know. Get over it, man. Now, the notable Hall of Famers that Harden has played with throughout his career: Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, Kyrie Irving. Tracy McGrady probably understands that maybe James Harden is in his feelings because Daryl Morey kept him in the dark, and there's been chatter throughout the last couple of days that James Harden and his relationship isn't the same with Morey because of that. But, dude, get out of your feelings. Daryl Morey traded for you when you were a sixth man with OKC. He helped turn you into an MVP. He gave you what was at the time the richest contract for any player ever. You wanted to get out of Brooklyn after you pouted your way out of Houston. And who came calling? Who traded for you? Daryl Morey, who's always had your back in saying that you're one of the greatest, most unique offensive players of all time. Daryl Morey. You understand that he didn't reach out to your camp and they weren't having these conversations because they wanted to avoid tampering allegations, which they got hit with because they were trying to bring in some of your guys in PJ Tucker and Daniel House. This goes back to the original thought of how I started this portion of the show. Nobody ever knows what James Harden is thinking. And guys like this, they're difficult to win with because when you work with that one dude or that one lady in the workplace, and they can be really, really elite at their jobs, but they kind of sit in that corner. They have a weird personality. Sometimes they're chippy. Other times they're silent. You're just like, I can't get a feel for this person. You don't really want to go out with them because you're not sure what type of person you're going to get, especially if you don't know that in the workplace. You don't know that outside of the workplace either. It's kind of the vibe that I get from James Harden. James Harden is that pickup basketball player who thinks he's a lot better than he is. You might look at that person when you're picking teams on the pickup court, and you're like, man, he can really ball. And then it becomes clear early that that person is overly confident. They think that their game is up here when really it's down here, and they're chucking shots from all over the court. And you're like, dude, can you please pass the rock? Can you please hit me with an open pass so I can shoot the three? Can you stop trying to do too much because you're not that dog anymore? That's what James Harden is. More on Harden coming up here in just a second. But first, this deal, we've been telling you about it all throughout the summer. This Sixers t-shirt shorts combo, it was $60. You can now get it on sale for $33. How do you get it? You use the link down below, chatsports.com/76ers combo. We'll put that link in the comments section and in the description of this video. James Harden discussing NBA trade requests. And this goes back to some of the things that I've said about Harden over time, Like, he's just kind of delusional. He does a sit-down interview, and the host asks him about Damian Lillard and some of these star players making these trade requests, and he fails to kind of acknowledge that he's doing the same thing right now. Just a weird and odd dude. Also, why didn't you go to Joel Embiid's wedding? I understand that you don't want to go to every coworker's wedding, but you're said to be tight with Embiid, but you don't go to his wedding? I find that to be odd. Anyway, James Harden on trade requests. I see both sides because I went through it. The organization wants to do what's best for them. They don't want to just give a player that basically is one of the best players they've ever had in an organization away for nothing or for less than his value. What's funny about that quote is that Harden says, I can see where they're coming from. Bro, you're literally asking out from Philadelphia right now, and you're talking about Dame, and then he continued. So I get the organization side, and then I get the player side. As far as wanting to play and wanting to be somewhere, whether it's because it's the right situation for you, your family, yourself, or whatever that person is going through. So I see both sides. If they can meet in the middle and kind of come to an agreement and figure it out, then that's the best scenario. I wouldn't want an organization to send someone somewhere where they wouldn't want to be, because you built a real relationship with that person. That person has done many great things for your organization and your franchise, but then you don't want to give that player away for nothing. So I get both sides. It's just find a balance, meet in the middle, and hopefully both sides can come to an agreement. Now, James, this is just a message for you, but you can negotiate a no-trade clause. And if you do that, you have control as to where you go. James Harden does not have a no-trade clause in his contract. So technically, under the NBA rules, he can be dealt anywhere. And it's up to the team to get the best value back for that player because they're trying to get equal or more value back so that if they lose a star, they can rebuild on the fly or retinker, reload, and they can still be competitive. That's the whole thought process of what a trade means. Now, if you made it to the end of the show and you're still rocking with us, Real One roll call. You see it on the shirt right here. You can get these shirts as well. We have them on sale. Real One, we appreciate you for watching the show. Had a couple days in between videos, been busy with the NFL, but you can count on us for year-round Sixers coverage, and we back.